Hey guys, Pro1701 here, and today we're going to talk about The Mind Robber with the second Dr. Patrick Troughton. I just finished it, and I really enjoyed this story. It just has this fantasy quality to it, this very surreal quality that is just so much fun, and definitely fits into the plot of the story because the Doctor, it picks up right at the end of the Dominators, like right there at the end of the Dominators, with them running into the TARDIS, and it starts getting hit by all this lava, and they're having to get away really quickly. I love the shot of the lava surrounding the TARDIS. That was really impressive. And so the Doctor has to use this emergency switch to get away, which takes them out of time and out of reality. Like, here's reality and time, and they're over here somewhere. And they end up in this really neat fictional realm as they slowly learn over the course of the story. And it's such a neat concept that Doctor Who lends itself to very well. I really loved the episode 1 cliffhanger. It was so phenomenal with the TARDIS just breaking apart and Zoe and Jamie clinging onto the TARDIS console as it's going in the void, and you see Troughton in the void kind of turning like this, and then you see the console kind of drifting into the void as like smoke comes and obscures it. It's such a good cliffhanger. One of the best Doctor Who cliffhangers, I think. And it has some other good cliffhangers in the serial too, like with the unicorns running toward them. You wouldn't think that would work, but I thought that worked really effectively. I mean, we even had a cliffhanger where Jamie and Zoe have a giant book trying to close on them. Because again, it's a fantasy realm they're in. It's a fictional world where normal rules don't apply. And, thought is just as dangerous as, physical things. It's executed so well. I like how when Fraser Hines got sick, they were able to cast somebody else to play him for episode 2. With the whole him getting turned into a cardboard cutout. Only Doctor Who. And then the Doctor having to put his face back on, and of course he's the Doctor, so he gets it wrong, and he thinks he's getting it right until after he puts it on. He's like, oh no, I've gotten it wrong. It's like something you expect to see the 11th Doctor do. It's really fun to watch, and I love the little riddles, like when is a door not a door, when it's ajar. I caught that immediately. And then the one where another way of saying sword, and I was like, words, yeah. So, and I'm sitting here as I'm catching the riddles, I'm all excited. It's really weird how they keep calling the villain the Master in this, because it's not the Master, because the Master hadn't been created yet, naturally. He didn't come around to the third Doctor's era, but it's still kind of odd seeing this for the first time and keep hearing the Master, and seeing the character show up on the screen, the actor credited as the Master. It took some mental adjusting to. Troughton is great in this. I'm so happy that this is a story that completely survives, because it's one of my favorite Troughton stories. And Troughton, Jamie and Zoe and Troughton are all great in this. I really like the set, because Doctor Who really works within its budget here, because this completely different dimension, basically, that they're in, is done in this very minimalist style, this very basic style, this kind of less is more approach. And it really works. Like in episode 1, when they're walking in out of the TARDIS, Jamie and Zoe are, and it's just this white void. And, again, you don't need a lot of effects to pull that off, but it still gets the effect it's trying to get across very effectively. Again, when the TARDIS breaks up and it's just that black void, it does that well. I like in episode 2 when they're in the forest, and when he boosts Jamie up, you find out the forest is actually like words, like they're standing on the page of a giant book and it's spelling out famous phrases. I really like, after they fix Jamie's face, which it's funny this time Zoe has to help the Doctor with it, because you know how he is. When they go into the building, they go into like that little house that leads into the caves. It's set up kind of like a haunted house, but it's set up like the stage of a haunted house. Like if you paid money to go into a haunted house with actors and stuff, you got the creaking door that of course makes its ominous creaking sound. You have the spider web with the giant spider in the middle that looks like a store prop. You have some more cobwebs around, but it fits the tone of the story, because it's not supposed to look like a haunted house. It's supposed to look like a made-up set for a haunted house, since it's fiction, like reading a book or seeing a movie. That works really well. I like the Doctor using the string so they don't get lost in the maze. I like the Minotaur part being brought in and Medusa being brought in. I really like Greek mythology, so it's nice to see that in there. I really like that it has Bernard in it. What's it? Hoseful? I can't remember how you pronounce his last name. But he also played one of the main Time Lords in the War Games that sentences the Doctor. He's also in Planet of the Daleks as the leader of the Thals. He's also in The Deadly Assassin as one of the Time Lords, the one that's kind of running around causing the problems. And so it's nice to see him in this. I really like him when he's in Doctor Who. He has this very regal, very commanding voice. So I always enjoy when he shows up in an episode. I'm always like, hey, that guy. And he's really cool in this. There was at one point in episode 4, I wondered if he was actually the guy behind it. And maybe he was just disguising himself as Gulliver to kind of talk to the Doctor. So I kind of wondered if there was something going on with him. But it turns out, no, he just is supposed to be Gulliver from Gulliver's Travels. And I love how excited the Doctor is when he learns that. He forgets all the danger around him, and it's just like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. I really would like to have a chance to chat with you. It's a very Doctor thing to do. And there really are, I think, a lot of the things that I like about the Doctor that would come later with like Tom Baker and David Tennant and Matt Smith that I think starts with Troughton. And that's definitely one of those things where he, despite all the danger going on around him, he becomes oblivious to it because he's so excited and in the moment. He does kind of tunnel in sometimes, get that tunnel vision. I love it. And then I really liked in episode 5 when he's having the kind of mental duel with the guy with the brain is controlling, the computer brain. I really like their little mental duel. And I love when he's explaining the Doctor, when the Doctor first gets wired up into the machine, and the Doctor's realizing he's wired into the system, and he's talking about, so I'm kind of connected and part of the machine now. And he says it with this bit of a smile on his face. This kind of, you don't know it, but I'm 2 steps ahead of you now. This kind of 7th Doctor chess move stuff going on. And I just love that knowing smile on his face. And how he gets belligerent with the guy. When the guy starts saying, no, we can control you. He's like, are you sure? You tried to control me before and you couldn't? And I love how in this episode, Troughton is having none of it. You know, even at the end of episode 4 when he's like, I want you to take over for me. And Troughton's, oh, you really do? Well, I won't do it. I won't do it, I tell you. And even when he threatens Jamie and Zoe, the Doctor's like, no, I won't do it. The Doctor's not having any of it. Troughton is being defiant. The last time I saw Troughton this defiant was anytime I watched the last episode of the War Games, and he's standing toe-to-toe with the Time Lords. He's doing the same thing here. He's not giving in. And I absolutely love that. That when Troughton wants to be defiant, Troughton is defiant. And I love when him and the other guy are having their kind of mental duel, like when they have D'Artagnan fighting one of the guy with the nose, and then when he has Lancelot fighting one of the other guys. All this little mental dueling stuff going on is really neat. I really enjoy that. And I like how when Jamie and Zoe first show up, the Doctor, it takes him a second to catch on that they're just fiction at that point, because they're saying things they've already said, and the Doctor's like, oh, yes, right. That was a really clever use, I think. It's really, really neat. The whole bit about overloading the brain just by pressing some buttons is a little tropey. Maybe not so much at the time, but it is a little tropey. This is supposed to be a highly sophisticated machine, I get, so just pressing some buttons to overload it seems a little too easy. Little Deus Ex Machina. I do like the fact that the machine, that it does confuse the big brain enough to where the white robots, which I really love their design, end up shooting the computer banks and kind of destroying the machine. That's pretty nice. And I really like how the story turns out. I wish the ending was a little more extended. You know, we just kind of have them sitting there talking about when the place goes up, they'll be returned to their own time zone. Well, are you sure it won't just be Oblivion? No, we'll find out and see. Here it comes. And you just kind of see the TARDIS come back together and it ends there. I wish we'd gotten just maybe an extra 60 seconds or two, an extra minute or two of dialogue in the TARDIS with them just kind of, whew. And yes, I know it leads into Invasion, but episode 1 of the Invasion's missing, even if the animation's nice. So I do wish the episode had been like a minute or two longer, just to resolve it a little cleaner. But it's such a fun story. I really like the white robots, too. I love their design. I love that kind of staticky noise they make. It's very unnatural, very other dimension-like. And I really like. I've talked before how I like that one shot of the Doctor when and I think it's in episode 3 at the beginning when he does that "fantastic mind" quote. Because I've seen that quote before, I just don't know what story it's from. I know it's in Babel Color's 10 Doctors fan edit that's really good. But the camera does this very unusual pan where it cuts between Jamie and Zoe to the Doctor, and it kind of spins around to the side. And Troughton has this really cool look on his face, and the way he delivers that line, just fantastic mind. I absolutely love that shot. It's a very unusual shot for Classic Who, and it's really, really effective and really impressive. This episode really takes advantage of the story. I just love all the things it does. It really is Doctor Who when Doctor Who is just firing on all cylinders. I'm really looking forward to ranking. Now that I've seen all of 7 of Troughton's complete stories, I really am looking forward to ranking them. But I really like The Mind Robber. I can see why it has such a good reputation with the fandom. It's such a treat, especially coming off the Dominators. It's such a treat. So I really enjoyed it. So that's my thoughts on The Mind Robber. It's kind of condensed down for this full review. I do have reviews up for the individual episodes of 1, 2, and 3. I was going to do one with 4, but I only had a couple points on it. I did like in episode 4 when Jamie's reading the little printout, and it has that bit about the Doctor picks up the sword and cuts off Medusa's head. But the Doctor doesn't do that. Instead, he remembers the story of Perseus, and then he uses the mirror to see the reflection instead to stop Medusa. And it changes to cancel, 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 Doctor test failed. That was a pretty neat moment. I actually did enjoy that. But yeah, it's such a good story. Check out those individual episodes for 1, 2, and 3 if you want to kind of hear me talk more in detail about it. But The Mind Robber, it's a phenomenal story from the second Doctor, and one of the reasons I absolutely love the Troughton era. So, what are your thoughts on The Mind Robber? Let me know down in the comments below. I always enjoy hearing from you guys. Other things to do, click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I also have a Patreon. Or a Patreon, I should say. Yes, I also have a Patreon. If you like what I do and would like to support what I do, there is a link to that down in the description below. Every little bit helps. My entry-level tier is only $2 a month. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.